Hmm. Hello, hello, hello. How's everyone doing today? Hope y'all doing great. Let me know if you guys can hear me. Let's get this show on the road here. Hope everyone's doing good. Let me make sure. All right, let me make sure here. Can you guys hear me? Hello, hello. All right, good. So it looks like the sound's going through, but I don't know. Just double check here. Always type in the chat, want to make sure you guys can hear. So in this video, we're going to go in and we're going to talk about the Citibank's 2022 MedTech Life Sciences and Tools Virtual Conference. Okay, this is one of those conferences that we skipped over because there were some things that we're going through. So just update people on the channel. Thank you so much. We just hit 3,000 subscribers. We're growing. We just started this literally a couple months ago. If you guys don't know me, if this is the first time you tuning in, my name is Al. This is Al Stock Trades. We like to find undervalued stocks. I've been doing this for 10 years, teaching for 15. We use intrinsic value calculations, technical analysis, artificial intelligence analysis, and we have a Patreon group with a Discord channel as well as a course. And we also have a golden doodle here that is a troublemaker. So excuse me for one moment. So now that the golden doodle situation is under control, he hasn't been feeling well this year. So I'm glad he's getting his energy back. But, so all right. I'm just trying to see what we need to talk about before we start this, because there's a couple things that we do need to discuss. So if you haven't seen it yet, I did post a video about Mulan Automotive. These are stocks that I normally don't talk about, but a lot of my Patreon members and also people on our subscribers list told me to look at it. So I went ahead and did an analysis on it. I'm not too, impressed. So I looked at the SEC filings, and yeah, not so good. So let's go ahead and share a screen. So just a quick rundown here. We have the S&P up 0.69%, the Dow up 0.25%, and the NASDAQ up 1.5%, okay, with the Russell 0.63%. A couple things that we need to talk about is that the Federal Reserve just had their monetary asset, their FOMC meeting, right? They've concluded their monetary asset purchases, and now they've increased the benchmark interest rates to 0.25. That is important because now the real stock market, when I say real, is among us, which means that we care about earnings report, we care about macroeconomic trends. We've been caring about that. But if you don't understand that now, for people that just started in the stock market back in 2020, expect things to unfortunately suck, right? If you don't understand how to evaluate these things, okay? The stock market is not a gambling game. People treat it as such, but it is actually a money-making machine if you know what you're doing. So a lot of people, what they're not talking about right now is crude oil. Crude oil has been ticking back up, and that might have some ramification. And I don't want to celebrate too early. I understand we're gonna do some technical analysis at the end of the Clover meeting, and we're gonna see where the prices are, where the resistance are, new level of resistance, new levels of support. But I understand, it's a definitely great day for Clover Health. We hit $3.40. It's a great day. Congratulations. However, I'm a veteran in the market. I'm not impressed. Okay, you know what I mean? I don't have any emotion. The only time I'll have emotion is when it reaches my price target of $48. That's when I'll sell, right? If the fundamentals don't improve, right? If the fundamentals improve, I will continue altering our price target. But as of now, my price target's $48. Okay, and by 2025. Okay, so based on this, it's looking pretty good. I believe we're up like 60% in the past month. So definitely great. That's why if you were in my Patreon group, we were pushing, buy. I mean, this was essentially like, it was just, we were all buying. I mean, some of my Patreon members, they were working overtime in their job just to be able to buy the dip on this one. And they even got a better dip than Chelsea Clinton. So, right. But without further ado, let's go ahead and let's do what we came here for. And let's watch the Clover Health Investment Citibank's 2022 Virtual Healthcare Conference. If you can't help, go ahead. If you want to help us out, please post this on StockTwits. Get the word out. Let people understand what Clover Health is all about. It's not just a squeeze play. This is a real business with real fundamentals, with real value, and it's taking on the incumbents. So if you can, please share this video on StockTwits, spread the word, and let me go ahead and update the system to allow audio. So one moment, please. All right, let's get started.
Thank you everyone for joining, and welcome to day 2 of the Citi Virtual Healthcare Conference. My name is Jason Casorla, and I cover managed care and healthcare facilities and providers at Citi. We're happy to have Clover Health here today. Joining from the company is CEO Vivek Garipalli, President and CTO Andrew Toy, and Director of IR Derek Newman. Thank you guys for being here today. Before we jump in, though, this is going to be a fireside chat format, so I'll lead a discussion. But if anyone does have a question, there should be a box on the upper right-hand portion of your screen to submit, and I'll certainly do my best to toggle over and get them in. But so maybe to start, I think you guys are going to do a quick overview, and then we can delve into questions.
Great, thanks, Jason. Appreciate the time today. So yeah, just quick overview. I know we had our earnings call yesterday, so just to kind of hit some of the high points. Pretty excited about our revenue growth year over year, direct contracting growth ahead of expectations. And I think just importantly on the Medicare Advantage side, strong growth in the face of what happened with a lot of other participants on the MA, on the managed care side. But I think importantly, when we look at Georgia, our second focus state, really our first proof point, external proof point of being able to grow significantly outside of New Jersey. I know that's been a question mark for folks outside, not one for us internally, but that was important to produce that data point. And then just from as we think about profitability, we're at a pretty good position now when we think about size of membership and concentration of membership, getting to around the $1 billion premium mark on the MA side, and then building a huge presence in direct contracting, our first non-insurance line of business, where Clover Assistant is powering all those practices and all those lives. We've got, we think ahead of us, a stepwise improvement in MCR this year versus last year, given our guidance. There's a lot of effort being put in this year, particularly around continued improvements around Clover Assistant and additional clinical programs. So we do expect another improvement in 2023 versus this year on MCR, but beyond even the STARS impact. So when we pull that all together, along with synergy.
So let's go ahead. There's a lot, there's a lot going on right now. The guy, I mean, as you can see, this analyst here is writing a lot right now. So Vivek is saying a lot of great information. So first things first, the things that stuck out to me was the MCR is going to be tremendously increased, decreased, but it's the rate of the decrease is going to be even higher in 2023. You see, the beautiful part about analyzing companies like this, Lemonade, other big retail stocks that essentially went to $225, now they're around $25, $30. Last time I checked, it was 25. I think it's probably up today because of the little short rally that we've had. But the problem with Lemonade is the MCR is not actually improving. With Clover Health, you actually see an improvement in the MCR, which means that over time, the patients that stick with Clover Health and Clover Assistant, they are able to lose less money. And if this continues, it'll be on track to profitability even faster. And you might ask yourself, well, other insurance companies can attack this now and they can do better. Well, they don't, because the population that Clover Health is looking at is it's a very tough population to make money off of. And sadly, the population that they're looking at is people of color, people that are historically marginalized, Hispanics, essentially Blacks, Native Americans. These are unfortunate realities in our life. Healthcare is not equal, and people follow the money. Luckily, if you implement technology, you're able to basically shrink that gap and be able to give state-of-the-art healthcare to patients that have been forgotten, right? We already know in the United States, we can predict someone's life expectancy based on zip code and education. This gears more into the social determinants of health. However, more specifically here, from the business perspective, this is very profitable, which means that if they are to continue this by 2023, you are going to start seeing fruits of your labor. I say 2024 is going to be a year of profitability. I think in terms of profitability, it'll be in an accounting, non-GAAP versus GAAP style profitability, which I'll explain that later. But I think true profitability will be achieved in 2024. That's just my hypothesis. The beautiful part about this is that I do think we are going to get an upgraded, possibly CMS 4-star rating instead of the 3.5. That the fruits of that labor will be definitely flourishing in 2023 and also 2024. So my price target by 2025 is going to be pristine. Unless China decides to invade into Taiwan and other geopolitical events happen to where the stock market depresses outside of the intrinsic value of the company, where it becomes detached away from the stock price and the business model. So that is essentially so far what I've gotten, just to give you guys my commentary here. Okay, so let's continue.
Synergies across your different lines of business, and continued efficiencies, and even you think about getting close to a somewhat standard OpEx structure as a percentage of premiums. We've got line of sight to profitability in the not too distant future.
Got it. Okay, no, that's a really good intro. Thank you for that, Vivek. Maybe just to bifurcate this a little bit, let's start on the Medicare Advantage side, right? And to go to your comments around.
So just a quick example, Medicare Advantage, there's two different types, Medicare Advantage and also direct contracting, ACO with the health equity. The Advantage doesn't pay as much, but they want to grow that too. And he's focusing more on that. And then slowly we'll build up to probably most likely direct.
Around Georgia, when you gave your preliminary 2022 commentary around membership, you first started, or in 3Q, you had expected to have around 8,500 lives in Georgia, right? It's trending closer to 12 now, as we start the year. So maybe can you just discuss, the thought process around jumping into Georgia specifically? Why, where you did in Georgia? What was about that area that was unique to you to think to jump in, outside of New Jersey, right? And then what's resonated there, and why do you think the growth has been able to come through the way it has above your expectations as well?
Yeah, I'll jump in here, Jason. So a couple of different things. The second question, I think first, which is the way we've been expanding is we've been landing and expanding in MA, right? Because it takes a while to build up networks, et cetera, but we need to be able to be in a market, start to get a feel for it, its growth dynamics, its network dynamics. So traditionally on the MA side, we built up adequate networks, we did the bid, we entered a bunch of markets, and then once we land, then we invest and we grow in certain ones of those markets. A quick commentary that now that we have something like direct contracting, where we can go anywhere in the country where we're not the insurance company, but also there's no bid, there's no network adequacy, we're able to land not quite the same as having an MA plan, but a little bit more efficiently. And you'll be seeing us do that. right? Because that gives us on the ground dynamics with the doctors earlier. So our expansion strategy, we're still going to expand on MA, but we are able to get data through the DC side as well, which is interesting in terms of just, again, ground dynamics with the doctors. We give them Clover Assistant, they start using it. We're like, well, do we want to launch an MA plan here as well? Then for something like Georgia, what we're seeing is it's now trending, like you said, quite along the lines of the way we saw New Jersey.
So essentially what I'm getting from that is that the direct contracting side allows them to almost be like, I hate to use this word now since we just came out of a pandemic, but almost like a virus. It allows them to spread rapidly, right? And as soon as they go into like, because it's easier for them in terms of the red taping involved, they can go in there, do direct contracting, ascertain the growth of that particular area and be like, just like he said, should we expand there? Maybe we should do a Medicare Advantage, and then they'll just bring in the other half of their business model. And then they think of it this way, direct contract, they're using, not only direct contracting will be a form of revenue, they're using direct contracting almost like a sensor. Like they're going out in different parts of the country and they're kind of creating this sensor, and they're just basically taking a kind of almost, I don't know if you guys know these strip tests here. I used to work as a cashier when I was it was during the time I was homeless. I went from homelessness to becoming a neurosurgeon, right? So I worked my whole life. I never took one day off. I used to do these pH strip tests to test the water when I used to clean, and it's like basically doing these spot tests where you take the test to see what's the pH level, a certain level criteria. That's what they're doing right now with this whole DC. They're able to expand out, and they're able to take these little spot tests and to see what's the growth in this area, kind of like a, just to kind of see where the wind is. And by doing that, they're able to ascertain and say, should we bring on the other side of the business? This has a lot of growth. Let's bring it in. So that's kind of like what I'm getting from this.
Grow in its earlier stages. We're very pleased that we're now expanding there in the expansion phase. And the value proposition is what Vivek and I have always emphasized. It's actually the wide network choice with a true wide network of physicians to pick from, because with Clover Assistant, we're managing quality and value-based care on a broader set of physicians than a regular managed care organization would normally have in network. That's why PPO is our flagship, and that's always resonated. We're known for the lower out-of-pocket costs and affordability of healthcare, and that's part of our mission.
Exactly. Again, think of it, the reason why Amazon was successful was because they were able to provide a service at the cheapest cost in the beginning. It was extremely unprofitable for them, but they did so much of it to where they're able to claim market share, where they're the dominating block on the chain. They were able to bleed out like the Bookmans and all the toy company, and also I want to say toy Diapers Plus or something. They did all those things. That's what essentially Clover's doing with their PPO plan. It's very simple. They're doing things at an affordable price, and they're going to the consumer, which in this case is the patient. What does the patient want? Think of yourself, because this is easily relatable. I'm sure you've had parents that have gone through unfortunate things, as I wish I can give you guys a better life, but this is base reality here. And we've already seen that, what would a patient want? What would you want? You want to be able to choose your own doctor. Maybe you don't like this doctor that you're working with, and he's like maybe full of himself, and you want to be able to choose a doctor that you would like, that you're in control. You want to be in control of your healthcare. You have this disease changing your whole life. Couldn't we just give you a little control over the type of doctor and the type of care that you can see at the most affordable price? It seems to me like a win-win situation, which is why we see this tremendous growth in Clover Health. Let's continue.
But the thing we're really emphasizing now is we're seeing in Georgia it resonate that, like, listen, you can go to the doctors that you want to see as long as they have room in their panel. Go ahead and see those doctors. We want you to see them, and they're powered by Clover Assistant. That's a very strong proposition that is not just seen in sort of copay numbers or co-payment numbers. And that resonated in Georgia. We're very pleased to see what we have there. And we think we'll have other states and markets following behind that as well.
Yeah, thanks. That's very helpful. And maybe just to that point around the other markets, right? I mean, you're in 7 other states as well, and a number of county, obviously outside of that. So, you pushed into Georgia here. You're seeing the replication very much like New Jersey. You're very pleased with that. And you've talked about this argument around the need to build the network up, to build the kind of entity. Is that, kind of like this hopscotch argument? We're going to do GA. Now we got the other states that we're in. We're going to build those out the same way. Or are you seeing differing either competitive dynamics or the way the markets are construed in the states that you're already in that make that a bit of a different argument at this point?
Yeah, great question. So a couple of things. First of all, it is different market to market. We know healthcare is hyper local. One dimension would be the dynamics of the providers on the ground, right? Some places only, if you have one large monolithic provider who wants to do one special value-based contract with one MA plan, that's not our ideal market. I'm not saying we'll never go there. That's just not our ideal market. That's better for other models that people might want. We think, fortunately, most of the country is not actually that kind of market, though. Most of it looks a little bit more like Jersey and Georgia. We're very good at that. So that's more of our focus in terms of how we go. The other thing that I would emphasize is we take most of our share from the larger managed care organizations, right? From the Humanas and from the Uniteds and the Aetnas. CSs. So because of that, we're less subject to on the ground, how do we roll up local smaller plans and take share from them? That dynamic doesn't exist for us.
That's important. I mean, so directly competing with the big boys, with the incumbents, which is why this company has been attacked by analysts that that represent institutions that hold a lot of money in the incumbents, into the big boys, the big dogs. And here, little Clover is not so little. It's starting to get bigger and beefier.
It tends to be just which of those players are in any given market. And we know we're pretty good because of our focus on PPO and wide network against the larger incumbents. And so ground dynamics are important, but it's less important from there. It tends to be more the provider network and the desire for and efficiencies we can bring when we actually provide access to the full provider community versus just narrow networks.
Okay, got it. No, that's helpful. And maybe just to piggyback on that taking share argument, taking from the large incumbents, you certainly realized above industry membership growth in MA. Is there any way you can help frame, like, for example, you're thinking about 26 to 27% growth in 2022. How are you framing that in terms of share taking versus, pure growth of, new market entry or any of those things? Like, how would you frame your ability to take share versus just the other ways you can organically grow from that angle?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do believe that, first of all, we believe that fee-for-service original Medicare versus MA is a legitimate consumer choice, right? Like, honestly, like, they've got different benefits and, with MedSup in there, et cetera. It's not one or the other. It's a consumer choice, which one you want to be in. We want to be able to provide Clover Assistant powered, data-driven primary care to both sides of that market and to take risk and be accountable for risk on both sides of that market in value-based care. That's our strategy. So I think traditional managed care and MA has framed it more as MA versus original Medicare, and we just don't see it that way. We're like, you pick the one you want, right? And we're going to provide great care and be accountable for your better outcomes at lower cost either way. And I think that's a different way of looking at the world, right? So if you want to stay in original Medicare, we're going to get you your same doctor. That's fine. We'll get you. We'll be in that market. Now, on the MA side, I do believe that a good number of our folks come to us from original Medicare, and that's because we're able to provide that affordability, right? For a certain part of the market, affordability is very important, and out-of-pocket cost is very important. It tends to be the more underserved communities. It tends to be folks who need help affording their care. MA is very good at that, right? MedSup premiums are expensive. It's underwritten. It's good for a different kind of person, generally wealthier, generally more middle class, right? So MA, we take share from there, but we also take significant share from other plans in the area. Once again, affordability is one dynamic, but there's also but you want to see your doctor, right? You want to see doctors in your community. You want to see the doctors you trust. And because we let people see the doctors they trust, that works with Clover Assistant, because when we now inform that doctor and give them sort of that guidance on how to be successful in value-based care, they can use that trusted relationship with their patient, use their clinical judgment, and help provide those better results.
Okay. All right, got it. Fair enough. Maybe switching over to the revenue and rate side of Medicare Advantage here.
And you can tell, I mean, the analyst here, he's just trying to do his job. He's like, okay, yep, got it. He has a stack of other companies he has to look at. You understand what I'm saying? So it's not like these analysts are sitting down with me and you, how we're sitting down right now and literally analyzing every little detail here. They don't have that time. That's why it's really cool to be able to pick stocks and do intrinsic value calculations, which is what we do in our Mastering Stock Market course. It's people don't have the time to do that, but you're able to do it, and you don't have a boss to kind of breathe down your neck to basically make you pick a certain way. There's you get what I'm trying to say? So just pointing it out. It's just the guy's just doing a job, right? Clover's worth so much more.
Here, Vivek, you talked about this last night, but I want to dig into the proposed 2023 MA rate. That 4.5% on a pure rate basis, excluding any coding trends. Just I guess a quick few questions related to the proposal. One, how did you see the proposed rate come in relative to your expectations, especially off of 22's rate in the 4% plus kind of cohort? Two, does the rate impact the way that you're thinking about your go-to market strategy going forward? And then three, maybe highlight some of the health equity considerations in the proposal that you highlighted last night, just so we can have a discussion around those dynamics. So relative to your expectations, how does it impact your go-to forward market strategy, and then the health equity component would be helpful.
Yes, I think in terms of relative to expectations, I don't think we're any different, where it's better than what we thought and probably what others thought. I think the other thing, Medicare Advantage is a pretty popular program for seniors, and we're entering a pretty big election cycle here in terms of the midterm election. So I don't think anyone wants to upset the apple cart when you have a bunch of folks that are going to be going to the polls, towards the end of the year. So I think that I wouldn't discount that just potentially being a driver as well. Now, kind of getting to in terms of how it affects bids and so forth, we're still in kind of our development process on the bid design side, but we're definitely well aware of how rich our plan designs are, and by an order of magnitude. So we're taking that into account as we think about balancing growth versus MCR, and how much do we really need to be giving away to still kind of maintain a high growth rate. So that's all going to be part of our calculus. And I think just the point Andrew made around choice, I think now public market investors may be at the early part of the learning curve on understanding how important choice is. Outside of healthcare, when you're in kind of traditional consumer products, choice matters. When you tell people they can't buy a lot of things, or if you go to a retail store and they only offer like 2 items, you're just going to have less demand. It's not that different in healthcare. So I think healthcare investors are starting to see the power of choice. And I think that's just only going to accelerate. I think incumbents are still not thoughtful yet on thinking through how much choice matters. And then kind of getting to how choice impacts the health equity components that you mentioned. When you think about those that are disadvantaged or in kind of that lower half of socioeconomic status, that's where network choice matters the most, because that's today where you actually see the narrowest networks. And there's you see in the rate proposal, or the proposals in the rate notice, there's definitely unintentional components of MA that have created an artificial suppression of those of lower socioeconomic background. CMS has recognized that. I think there's 3 really powerful components in the proposals. One is having a direct adjuster on risk adjustment tied to socioeconomic background. There's a reference to area deprivation index that's US Census driven. What we think is compelling around that is it can't be gamed by businesses. So when you kind of get into the take-home test component of submitting to the government codes or socioeconomic background, you end up reinforcing the health equity disparity. But when it's actually EDI driven, census data driven, you actually create a reliable measure for what parts of the country or components of a market should get a risk adjustment inflator and which ones should get a discount. You'll see probably the incumbents push back heavily on that because it's going to have a severe impact on their margins. But from a policy perspective, it'll create the right incentives for them, which is a really good thing. The second component is a health equity index, which is a drafting off of the health equity summary score, which was a study done by the RAND group contracted by CMS. That's something Clover scored amongst the highest on. We don't know what the weighting of that measure is going to be. We don't know what measurement year it's going to start impacting or if it will even happen. But that's really important to, from a star rating perspective. And then one other component.
So I just want to interject here really quickly and just talk about this whole, again, star rating, but more specifically health equity. Listen, guys, inflation is going through the roofs. Wage price increases are not matched with inflation. People are getting wage adjusted inflation. Housing is becoming expensive. Living in America has started to become unfortunate. It's becoming almost a burden. It's very difficult to start to live in this country. And health equity is only going to get worse, right? All the inequalities that we see in this country is only going to get worse. However, what does the government do? The government has to start allocating money. The government has to step in. Now, is that a good? Is that, I'll leave that to you, right? But what this means is that we have a company that's publicly traded that we all can invest in, that has already specialized in this, has made it their mission because they've seen the trends of where healthcare is going. They've seen multiple investments that medical schools, my medical school, other medical schools in general states have made in terms of trying to increase the number of primary care physicians in healthcare, trying to increase the congruent connection between public health and also primary care in one package to give health equity, not in terms of equal care, equitable care, meaning that everyone is able to be lifted based off of their own needs to make everything congruent. Again, not appeasing to all political parties, but since we're dealing with a population that everyone is going, you see, the difference between being rich or poor is that, sometimes we all experience different things, but the difference, the unique thing that we all have and similar is time. And each and every one of us is going to experience aging. Each and every one of us is going to experience death. And because of that, this is something where a Republican or a Democrat will come together and say, you know what, perhaps maybe we should look into this, which is exactly what John McCain did. My senator of Arizona, the flag right behind me, he voted to help the healthcare because he himself experienced glioblastoma multiforme, GBM, which is a deadly brain cancer that I hope one day we'll be able to solve. So in that regards, Clover Health is on track and is essentially working on the problem that has not yet become an extreme problem, but it will be. But Clover's there to essentially solve this issue that the greed in healthcare has resulted from. Just again, I know we're diverging, but this tangent is important. A sociologist by the name of Emil Durkheim has talked about how sociology is like a body. So an organism, society is like an organism. You have the head, the arms, and the legs. If, for example, one part of the body starts to take resources from the general council of the organism of society as a whole, and let's say this hand becomes a cat, then other parts of society will start dying out, will start to become deprived. And that gravitational pull to the specific hand that turned into another organism itself, a cat versus the body, starts to become dissociated from both. I know this is pretty complex, right? It starts to become dissociated. And within that, you essentially start to have healthcare, in this example, disparities, or in general, wealth gaps, right? What Clover's doing is it's solving this issue, solving the corrupt policies that have been driven by a lot of these business folks that have stepped into healthcare, or let's say the cost of the cost of insulin rising, or the cost of EpiPens being $600. Remember the CEO, right? That there was some heavy pullback. All of this was of greed, and Clover is essentially almost doing their own intrinsic value calculation, projecting 10 years into the future. And they themselves are realizing and saying, maybe we should focus a little more on this health equity, because that's where we're headed. Because if you follow the sociological trends, once the wealth gap becomes so far out, you start to get internal conflicts, which is what another sociologist talked about by the name of Karl Marx, between the haves and have-nots of society. And once these haves and have-nots of society become so far apart, you start to get huge internal wars and conflicts, which is what we've been experiencing with the riots, with Black Lives Matter. All of these components, or let's say with the Stonewall protests for the LGBTQ community, that's essentially where we're going to if we do not solve these issues. And Clover Health is going to be able to do that. So the government's like, oh my God, let's go ahead and get to that. Which is why Vivek said, and since we're close to election cycles, and after these next 2 years, we're going to get to another election cycle, the 2024 presidency. Because of this, guys, they are not going to remove the whole direct contracting or the equitable thing. They're not going to do that because they're going to get pinned hard, right? Because they're removing people's affordability for insurance. Okay, so let's continue. I hope that was helpful. That was a lot of sociology, but very integral.
The component is within medication adherence, which is a highly weighted measure within the star rating. There is a proposal around potentially taking into account, again, socioeconomic status on that measure itself. Again, that would affect star rating. But when you think about risk adjustment and stars, those are two huge drivers of revenue. So, it'll be very interesting to see what the comments are going to be from industry on those. You can probably sense what our comments are going to be. But I think it's in line with what a lot of folks have learned during COVID, that health inequity is a very real thing. I think the studies coming out of what happened during 2020, 2021 are only going to get more powerful and more eye-opening, and not necessarily in a good way. And I think this administration has made it super, super clear that health equity is a big priority. And interestingly, it was the prior administration that contracted out for the health equity summary score analysis. So I do think we're entering a realm of where there's bipartisan support on focusing on this as an issue, because it affects all markets, rural markets as well. So we think the momentum is there. It's the right public policy goal. It's the original intent of Medicare Advantage. The only thing standing in its way are, big business interests.
Okay, got it. No, thank you. Really appreciate the color, candidate.
That's very clear. The only thing standing in its way, Clover's way, the Clover Assistance way, the stock price's way, is big business interests, right? The big incumbents. That's what's standing in the way. All of these shorts that we've been experiencing, wanting to keep the incumbents in power, wanting to perpetuate the cycle of poverty, the cycle between the gaps between the haves and have-nots. Well, the beautiful part is, in the end, we already know the stock price will ascend back to its fundamental value, the intrinsic value of Clover Health. And we already know that a business is reflective to that, to what the population needs. If you provide good service, if you provide healthcare at an affordable cost, you will eventually get to a point where people will flock to you. You will start to create a flywheel business model, right? To where your consumers, your patients will start advocating for your own business, and it just becomes a virus and it just spreads. And all these other analysts, they have no choice but to follow, right?
There. Maybe just to your point, or well, to shifting to stars, right? For 2022, you got a 3.5 star rating for your PPO plan. It's a half-star bump from where you were in 21, and I think ahead of your expectations as you were thinking about originally the glide path of your stars improvement over time. Maybe just, are there specific considerations that you believe drove the stars performance specifically? And historically, you've suggested your ability to drive star performance as you layer in criteria into the Clover Assistant itself. But maybe just how you thought, how the development of going last year from 3 to 3.5 in 2022, and we'll start there. That would be helpful.
Yeah, so we got our star result, just because it's always confusing. We got our star result last year for measurement year 2020. So we achieved 3.5 stars for measurement year 2020, which will affect payment year 2023, which is next year. So just quickly as a discussion for that for everybody, when we go to 3.5 stars, we're very excited for that. That does change our rebate on our bids, which means that the government will pick up more of a percentage of supplemental benefit costs, which will effectively lower our MCR as we've discussed. That's not the case for every plan.
So essentially, these star ratings are important because they directly affect MCR. And what if the CMS says help the poor, help the health equity? And that's what Clover has been doing for so long. And once they get this upgraded star, you are starting to see a confluence of data. You're starting to see a path where nothing's going to stop this company. Nothing, right? I mean, this company's on track. They are going to kill it. Remember, a lot of people attack Chamath. Chamath is a smart man, okay? The guy invested in Bitcoin back in 2013. The guy put Facebook on the path of 1 billion users, right? So the guy knows what he's doing, right? So very smart. And he's done DCFs of this business too before he even invested in it, right? And it's a strong business.
Many plans get 3.5 stars, get that increased rebate, which makes those benefits cheaper effectively to provide, and then provides additional benefits. And our goal has been, we already provide very good benefits, market-leading benefits. We don't need to use that to actually increase benefits. We've effectively pre-funded those benefits out of the MLR is one way to think about it. And we will enjoy the benefit of that starting next year, because there is that lag between when you achieve star ratings and when you actually get the financial benefit. So I think that what happened there was there were a couple of different things. One, I acknowledge that we're still during the pandemic, and how stars have been measured during the pandemic have changed, how cut points are measured, all those things. I think CMS is good at doing that. They'll continue doing that, and then they're going to add on new adjusters, like Vivek said. Almost what we believe is take the opportunity to say, well, since things got kind of thrown up in the air anyway during COVID, let's add these new components that we've always wanted to add to stars as well, because it's going to be different coming out of the pandemic anyway. We've always seen that the underserved population tended to get lower scores on these measures because the affordability of care is harder. They have less access to doctors in their local region. All of these dynamics, I think, will start to be adjusted for, which is very powerful. So we were excited that the features we launched with Clover Assistant could help us get towards 3.5 stars. We believe we're very well set up for where we think CMS will go with the star rating program going forward. And that will obviously help us move to 4 stars and beyond.
Okay. I mean, do you think that you'll be able to get 4 stars? I mean, talk about the rating, but I mean, if you go on to Medicare, for this year, you're going to show for 2022 plan, you're going to show 3.5 stars. For your plans, right? So,
it'll be in this year's plan rating for 2023's plans will show up for 3.5 stars. Yes, but in this calendar year, correct? Yeah,
correct. That's what I was trying to get at. So the following year, right? The next year in that argument, do you think you can get to 4 stars, or if a lot of those proposals that you talked about within the proposed rate on the health equity impacting stars? I mean, let's just kind of build out a scenario. Do you think you can get to 4 stars pretty quickly here, or are there considerations that we should be mindful of as we think about the progression of stars over time?
I think that I would be delighted to get to 4 stars. I'm not setting anyone's expectations to be at 4 stars. I think 3.5 would be solid for us. And like I said, that 300 to 500 basis point improvement is already, I'm not going to look past that. Let's put it that way. So I wouldn't say we would necessarily guide to 4 stars, but we constantly are working on it. Like stars is sort of one of the things where you just keep working at it, and your rating, you get rewarded and your rating improves over time. I do think that we can get there even without any adjustments for health equity. I think it's fairer if there are adjustments for health equity. I think it's fairer if wider networks are also looked at differently, but I don't think those are necessary at the end of the day. I will call out that Vivek indicated that health equity was looked at 2 dimensions, the stars, which we just talked about, but also the risk adjustment component. The risk adjustment component can be landed, to your point, Jason, a lot earlier. It's just in the rules, it can be adjusted quicker. Stars takes a little bit more time in order for it to be adjusted.
Okay. No, that's really helpful here. And just wanted to quickly here maybe just go to your MCR guidance, right? Your thoughts around next year around your cost trend constructs. You largely kept that the same, 95 to 99% is your range. Can you help walk us through maybe the puts and takes as you consider the development of MLR or MCR this year, just outside of COVID? Just trying to bridge where you end up in 21, how you think you got to 22, and maybe just the high level puts and takes that walk you to at the bridge there.
Yeah, makes sense. And so the way I would frame it would be this: let's outside of COVID, because we're still in a pandemic, even though we're all very hopeful, but this is still, a year ago we had vaccines already. We were like, no more pandemic this year. And we all know how that turned out. So we're still in a pandemic now, but outside of COVID, there are 2 things that I would indicate, right? For this year, we have discussed how in service year 20, the first year of the pandemic, it was hard to get encounters that counted for risk adjustment. Everyone saw that, right? Which meant that payment year 21, there were things that, we knew someone was diabetic, but we had no way to get that code accepted by CMS, right? And so our revenue went down in 21. We have seen that come back already because we learned how to operate within the pandemic in service year 21. So for this payment year, 22, 2022, we are already seeing revenue come back to what we believe is appropriate levels, right? We always knew they were diabetic. We just needed to get that code accepted by CMS.
Maybe just to dive in real quickly, but does the Delta and Omicron impact this year make the same exact argument for next year as well on your ability to risk code and assess and so on, or is that not a real meaningful construct?
Great point. So basically the way I would answer that is we certainly did better in service year 21 affecting 22 than service year 20 affecting 21. So we're already probably, I think we shared some slides around this, about 600 basis points and up better just from the bounce back, if that makes sense, right? Now, is that the full value of the bounce back? We're still assessing that. I think there's still some latent in there that didn't come back all the way.
Right.
Probably not, but at least what we're already seeing happen is pretty material, and that makes us feel good already. Obviously, for obvious reasons, coming into 22 to be paid appropriately for the risk we're taking on, right? So that already feels good. And I think there is some more room to improve on that because we're still in the pandemic, right? Like at the end of the day. So that one's there. The stars impact is already earned, right? That was earned for service year 20, and that will affect next year's MCR, right? Which is at 300 to 500 basis points. So the revenue we hope will continue and maybe be improved a bit more, like you said, because of COVID. Stars effect will be for next year too. That's great. That's in the books. And so now the variable just tends to be the waves we're going through, Omicron version 2, you know, or like whatever's next. I think we're hoping that what we're seeing is while we might get more variants, maybe the impact of the variants is flattening as we get better at managing this as a society and become more endemic. Vaccines, most people have already gotten it, etc. So we're seeing that flatten, and some of it has been compensated for in the rate notice as well, if that makes sense, right? So we want to see that flatten out. However, we have still priced into our projections significant effect from Omicron from last.
I don't want to take too much from the flattening out, but every time someone says flatten out now, I just remember 2020, flatten the curve, flatten the curve. I don't know if you guys remember that. That's kind of bringing back nightmares from those times. Jesus, my Lord. You know, I don't know if you guys remember that, but it's just, but yeah, we are still in a pandemic. China's slowing down. And with the whole Russia thing, you know, there's just a lot of still uncertainty in the market, which is why I'm not celebrating yet. I'm not putting my party hat. I'm probably going to purchase a Clover Health party hat or something, but not just yet. Yeah, let's continue. I just wanted to make a comment about the flattening the curve.
From last year, because no one can predict the pandemic, right? Outpatient utilization, pent-up demand, all those things are still priced in.
Yep, and that's your argument around the 300 basis point construct that you baked in, right? So that is not just COVID costs. Is that what you're alluding to?
Correct.
Okay.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Okay, got it. Because 300 basis points of COVID costs is, we're wondering in New Jersey what's going on up there. So
no. It's COVID and related. Oh, by the way, just because you asked that question, there has been more data published where New York and New Jersey are by far above the national average. So I know you weren't intending to sort of make fun of it. I understand and accept the spirit of what you said. But you know, urban centers, diverse centers hit harder by COVID. I think that's definitely something that we've seen on the fee-for-service side as well.
So just an important thing I want to talk about here. So Clover Health became public in terms of the SPAC at the wrong time. I mean, they came in slightly at the right time because of evaluations were being pressed higher because of the 0% interest rates. But at the same time, they're in a freaking pandemic. And a lot of these components here were, here, I'm getting a Wi-Fi signal here. Connection is unstable. Wi-Fi. Can you guys hear me? Let me know if you guys can hear me here. If I'm getting any issues with the connectivity here. So in terms of the, I lost my train of thought. Something popped up with the connections here. So Clover Health essentially came in at really a tough time, right? And they are already situated in New Jersey. Guys, New Jersey is a very tough market. There's a lot of healthcare disparities there, and they got hit hard. But yet they still managed. We're good? Yeah, we're good to go? Perfect. Thank you, Brandon. So honestly, guys, I mean, like Clover Health, this pandemic, let's put it this way. This pandemic has toughened them up. And once we pass this pandemic, they are going to be so freaking strong. Thank you, SG. Thank you, Brandon. I appreciate it, guys. All right, let's get back to the video.
Okay, got it. Perfect. Just want to be conscious of time. Let's shift over to direct contracting, right? Just the program only started in April of last year, but maybe at your highest level right now, how has that program developed so far for you? Just any high level thoughts would be helpful on direct contracting for you as an entity.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that the way the program's developing is it's a new CMMI program. We all know that, right? They could make adjustments to the program. We all know that as well. What I generally see is that we are majority claims aligned. That's fairly different for most DCEs, certainly DCEs at our size. We think that's core to our model. Basically, that's what we would expect to see with our model, right? We sign up doctors who may not have been necessarily thinking of value-based care directly, but we can help them have that on-ramp, that digital on-ramp to value-based care that the Clover Assistant brings. They sign up with us, we get their panel assigned to us. So we get large numbers of claims aligned folks sent into our program starting January 1st, and we reported on that last night, that's exactly what we saw happen. I think the fact that we're so heavily claims aligned is different than what other DCs might talk about, but that's just a function of the model. Sorry, not the DC model, their approach versus our approach. Our approach is bring in doctors, let them be successful, let them be folks who have not been successful in other programs before. So we like that. We do know that CMS is still looking at benchmarking and how that methodology works. I expect that maybe there'll be some tuning around that as CMS talks about these things. I think that's expected as well. And the last part is, I do think there's a lot of aspects of the DC program that have been well constructed and thought through, and that's a bipartisan kind of view on that, and that has sort of played out as well in terms of thinking of it as a next set of thinking along the ACO path.
Okay, got it, perfect. Just really quickly here. I mean, beginning of the year, you kind of guided to 125,000 on average for the year. You got a 40,000 bump, just so that folks are aware. Why did that happen? But just a month later, you got 40,000 more, and could you get another 40 or 50,000 as the year progresses, or just so that we're all aware of how that may work and think about the company?
I'm definitely not setting expectations to get another 40,000 to about 1,000. So thank you for asking that question. I think the reason there is that thinking between voluntary alignment and MA, where there's a B2C motion. You're thinking, wow, you must have gone out and signed up a lot more people. We're not doing that in DC. What's actually happening is we're submitting all the doctors. That's not a variable. They're getting accepted. That's not a variable. What is a variable is who gets assigned to those doctors as a fee-for-service patient of that doctor. That is a variable. We saw that as a variable last year, right? We saw it as a variable this year. We have access to the algorithm, but we don't have access to all exactly the same data as CMS. So even though we know which doctors are coming in, who is going to be assigned in their panel is our variable. So it's not like I'm going out there and saying, oh, look, I signed up a bunch more people. What I'm saying is, oh, look, CMS and Clover are getting sort of better at calculating who actually gets assigned into this program.
Okay, got it. So, the thought process here, you start the year with about 160-ish plus or minus, and it should trend regularly flat pretty much, right?
Basically we'll get some voluntary alignment. Okay. We will get some mortality, for example, which would pull the number down, but I would say, roughly flat.
Okay, got it. That's helpful. And I know you commented on the claims versus, alignment versus the voluntary, but just, your model on the claims and how you're going against it, maybe just why can't the voluntary also work in your end too? Maybe just help on that argument, because of the whole argument that you've discussed around, others are saying it's a lot more voluntary based, your claims, that's part of your model, but why can't Clover also get the voluntary action?
Yeah, we absolutely can. If the question is whether we want to, because doing the voluntary model comes with downsides that I think are not apparent, right? Okay. One downside is that if you think about that model, what you're basically saying is you're going to help your participating providers take patients from other practices. Do you see what I'm saying? By definition, you're voluntary aligning them where they were not claims aligned, right? What that means is you're effectively telling everyone else in that market, you are favoring some people versus others. And what we would rather do is sign up everyone to be in our DCE and just take them claims aligned than say, oh, I like you better, Jason, Dr. Jason, let's move people to you, right? Yeah. And so I think that's fundamentally the difference between our models is we can work with anyone. We are, and does that make sense? Like that's really important.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just want to make sure there wasn't anything else that we wanted to flag there.
If we wanted to do it operationally and so take that operational cost, we could absolutely do it. There's nothing that stops us.
Okay, yeah, perfect. Got it. That's extremely helpful in understanding that backdrop. I mean, okay, so I think you alluded to this a bit on the call yesterday. Obviously the headlines that are going around, direct contracts, a huge portion of your revenue. Just wanted to flush out the pieces so folks can understand a little bit more. You're in direct contracting, but does that mean you can't, what are some of the offsets that could happen if something were to happen? We just held a DC panel earlier today where there's, arguments and discussions around potential, kicking out managed care out of this program from that argument. And I'm not trying to say one way or another. I just want to help kind of delve into where, the offsets could be other programs around taking risk in Medicare that you think you could pretty much easily jump into, or thoughts around that to just help round out that argument.
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple different things. I think number one is kicking out managed care. Like the majority of our revenue actually comes from non-managed care. If you think about it that way, right? Majority of our revenue actually comes from DC at this point, right? So that's from that perspective, it's interesting because we're not seeing DC as a feeder or something into managed care. It's an interesting consumer choice that can actually be brought in. The other dimension I would say here is that we all know, I think everyone knows, administration knows, there needs to be a movement towards value-based care in original Medicare at the end of the day, right? We can all debate how, design the programs, all those things. That's not going to end, right? Like there will be programs. This is not even the first program that does this, right? This is the multi-generational program. So we are not pro DCE people, if that makes sense. What we are is pro, how do we bring value-based care to all of Medicare, independently of the consumer choice of someone picking original Medicare versus MA, right? And so whatever programs exist over there, we think we'll be able to participate in, because at the end of the day, what is our model? Our model is not to be an MCO in fee-for-service. Our model is to enable physicians through software, our software platform, to be successful in those programs. And no one's trying to lock physicians out. We're just an enabler for them to move into value-based care.
Absolutely. Okay. No, that's really helpful. The delineation here between the fact that you're offering the software for the risk argument, as opposed to siphoning out the profit argument.
Exactly. I don't think anyone's going to say no one can provide software to physicians that helps them be successful. That would be okay. Maybe someone could say that, but that would be a pretty weird argument to make.
Okay. No, good. And I'm glad you guys had the opportunity to kind of discuss that here.
So I wanted to, Brandon, let's respond to this comment here. So Andrew talks so fast and confident. This is why I like Clove. He truly has a strong understanding of the industry and its needs, also how to make money into the, so you have to, another thing I also want to add to this comment, because I do like the way he presents. I like the way how he's confident. He's very, but most importantly, out of all of them, he's very passionate. He cares. And honestly, I am surprised he's not a physician. He's so caring. I'm not saying that you have to be you can be other things and care. You don't have to be a doctor, but it's really cool to see a software man be able to just help out doctors and be able to help healthcare like no other. So it's just, he's literally wearing a cyber white coat and helping. Hopefully soon we'll see millions of American lives and hopefully international as well. So that's I do really like him a lot. He's very humble. Even Vivek, very humble people. I mean, just look how they're dressed. Look at their office, very simple. There's a couple ways to evaluate someone. People can evaluate the content of the speech, how the person is talking in terms of the presentation of their style of speech, and also how they look in terms of that type of their speech. And the type of what I'm getting out of them is just very humble people, very humble, building a platform that will change people's lives. So that's how can you argue with that, right?
Just real quickly on maybe just shifting a little bit gears to the Clover system. I know you'd love to talk about that, Andrew. You talk about continuously improving the product, right? But thinking ahead, and this kind of got highlighted in the call last night, but just thinking ahead, what are some of the next areas, the larger, deeper areas you're looking to build out in the Clover Assistant specifically, capabilities-wise, services-wise? What's the bigger pieces that you're looking for the Clover Assistants that folks can get attached to at this, just to understand it more?
Yeah, so let me start by saying that, thank you for giving me the opportunity. Like, I love the idea of agility and the agility that software platforms bring, right? And so I always use the analogy of like turn-by-turn directions on GPS. If you remember what I was like driving before that and what you remember afterwards, it's nice to just not have to be like, okay, I have to memorize maps, I have to know traffic patterns, like it just adjusts to the right thing. So the weird answer to your question is, I love the idea that I could change my mind if I wanted to on what's important at any given time. Let's say there are significant changes to the priorities of the DCE program. Let's say, you know what, we didn't have stars before, but let's introduce stars to the DCE program suddenly, is what a CMI decides. Okay, great. Rather than having to retrain a massive number of physicians, I just load those stars guidelines into my turn-by-turn directions on Clover Assistant. They still use their clinical judgment. They read it. They're like, oh, okay, I'll do that. Or maybe I won't do that. And suddenly within, like a couple of days, I've rolled that out to the entire network. And I've reacted to any, that's why I'm like, okay, I can react to any change, right? If this program changes, no problem. If there's a new program, I'll load that to Clover Assistant, no problem. I just.
And that's the beauty of this program. It literally is a software defined physician. If you guys are not familiar with Tesla, the way Tesla works is it's really marvelous. Here, if you guys see how Tesla works, you have an app that essentially allows you to control the vehicle. Let it come to you. Adjust the heatings of the car seat. Turn on the heat of the steering wheel. But you know what's important here also? There's something that he's alluding to, which is a software-defined vehicle. We get updates, literally plug and play, as what Brandon was saying. Literally updates directly in the whole CMS can change their whole components, their whole algorithms, or just, just purely CMS. Here's the new stars. This is what we do. And it literally integrates within their platform. So usually a physician, amongst certain time points, they have to do something called continuing medical education, CME, right? And the beautiful part about this is that this Clover Assistant will continuously feed them that information, will continuously give them what is the current state of value-based, evidence value-based care. And it'll be able to do that at a slower learning curve, faster learning curve than that of traditional medicine, which is going into a classroom, sitting down, leaving your practice for a couple days. Here it is, injected, and within a couple days they'll understand, right? And if they don't like it, just like how it's a turn-by-turn GPS, if let's say I'm not turning here, there's a lot of construction here, I'm just going to go straight and go all around the block to get there. Guess what? The Clover Assistant platform will be able to go with you and adjust to your needs, to your clinical judgments. That's powerful.
I've just empowered all those physicians to be successful in that program. That's super powerful, right? Just on its own. Now, talking about stuff that's applicable no matter what, I also like about CA that at the end of the day, we're caring for the same human being. Who cares about the value-based program? That's just a means to an end of better outcomes at lower costs. How do we give physicians superpowers to make better decisions armed with more data about as many clinical conditions as possible? So the way I think about that is that's our clinical roadmap, right? You could almost march through different diagnoses conditions and say, is this something that people are thinking about? What more data can we provide? What more lab data can we provide? How do we enable people to make better decisions around this? Maybe it's just bringing them to their attention to certain things. So the way we think about it is, how do we constantly increase engagement with the platform? And then how do we also then march through clinical conditions? We talk about oncology, CKD, just scratching the surface there. We can do diabetes. We can do all the major conditions that are in our population and just get better and better and better at that and be shipping.
Same thing, the beautiful part about technology is, and you guys are using it, right? So within our Mastering Stock Market course, or within our Patreon members that have access to our AL stock alerts, as soon as I uploaded the artificial intelligent robot, look at your interaction levels. You guys are constantly interacting with the machine. You ask any ticker you want, you look at short interest levels, support resistance levels, order flows, dark pool data, and the interaction increased. You guys are spending more time on the Discord channel, and let's just say if there's a recession that plays out or something, the artificial intelligence technology graphs you support and resistant lines, and you guys were able to essentially adjust. That's the beauty of AI. That's the beauty of tech. It just makes you fully engaged. The more you engage, and the more, I don't know if you guys recognize this, the more you engage, you constantly feed information, and it's a positive feedback loop, and it keeps adjusting and adjusting and adjusting and getting better. Machine learning.
Shipping updates, just scratching the surface as well. So I'm happy with our engagement. Lots of stuff we could do there to make it easier to use. We're rolling out EHR integrations. We're rolling out triggers. We're launching integrations into top health tools, and then just interesting clinical content and data sources that we can build to CA.
Got it. Okay. That's really helpful. We got a last minute here. Just want to go to a bigger picture, and then Rebecca, I'd be remiss not to say this after you flagged it on the call here, but just the argument you made about balancing your growth and profits, right? And you kind of teased us a little bit last night with the argument around the potential for profitability next year. Maybe just take a quick few minutes here to discuss the building blocks of that. I mean, you alluded to it a little bit when you first introduced, but as you think about where Clover's come from and how you're thinking about next year and the years ahead.
Yeah, of course, it was a big tease. They teased that profitability. That got analysts like this. Profitability? Exactly. Because as soon as you become free cash flow positive, then all of a sudden net income positive, holy freaking moly, that stock is going to ascend. Because now that stock is making you money and it's growing.
Years ahead, how are you balancing the growth versus profitability argument, the competitive landscape, all those pieces and the building blocks that get you to something close to a profitability level for 2023 and beyond? That would be helpful.
Yeah, no, Happy to do so. And I think even if we just look at it from an illustrative perspective, so let's just put Clover aside. If you take an MAO that's, let's say, call it 1.2 or 1.3 billion in premiums, at that size, your OpEx as a percentage of premiums is going to be around 8 to 12%. And then for Clover, in our case, we'd add on our R&D team. I don't have the exact kind of numbers in front of me, but it's nowhere close to that percentage of premiums. And then we have sort of a modest OpEx incremental, but it's highly synergistic with our MA side on direct contracting. And then you can kind of run the numbers from there as to why we think there's some potential possibility of certain things falling into place to get there. And not to mention the fact that we have a very, very wide differential between our plans and those in the market. Even when you look at HMO plans that appear comparable to Clover, they're HMO plans. And then when you look at PPO plans that appear comparable to Clover, you scan over at the added network cost sharing, and it's sky high. So I think one of the things that's really interesting is, we have a lot of flexibility on plan design and still maintaining a really high growth. I'm not saying we're going to make any dramatic changes, but we do have a lot of that flexibility. And what the incumbents are facing is they're having to spend a lot of money on lead gen to hit their growth rate. But you don't really know how much money they're really spending, given just how big those organizations are. And their growth engine is the PPO side. When you talk to incumbents, they're not going to reveal to you their MCRs on HMO versus PPO. But if they do, I think you'd be shocked as to how wide of a gap that is. Whereas Clover, our business is predominantly PPO, and we're going to get over time to attractive MCRs. And I think it's going to be very, very difficult for incumbents to compete. I think part of their assumptions are there's no way Clover can do well on a PPO MA margin because we as an incumbent don't do well. I think that could be their fatal flaw in how they're looking at it. But that's kind of what we think is going to happen over time. And this all kind of hinges around what we developed with Clover Assistant starting many, many years ago. Yes, we're set up for a portion of our business as an MA plan, and the non-insurance side of our business is growing much larger. But we're not really structured anymore as a traditional MA organization.
It definitely was. By the way, thank you for all the support, guys. It really means a lot to me. Yeah, that definitely was a big stab right there. The incumbents are getting hit hard. If you guys recall, Humana talked about how market shares being taken and the stock price went ahead and dropped. Guys, honestly, I feel like, United Healthcare is pretty up there, but I would say it would be nice to take on United Healthcare. But if I were to basically call it apples to apples in terms of competition, I think Clover is going to take out Humana. I think they're going to directly compete. I think Humana might, drop down from their market cap, and I think Clover is about to get it. You know what I mean? So, yeah, exactly. They're not going to show you their full in terms of their separate MCRs, which is true. Yeah.
And we're just looking kind of our revenue makeup, our lives makeup, and the other lines of business, as Andrew alluded to, as we're getting into. So I think what folks are going to be seeing over time, probably maybe next year or year after, this conclusion of, oh wait, they really are a software company driving value across lots of different lives, across physician practices,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They are a software company. And then all of a sudden they start licensing out the Clover Assistant to other hospital networks, other countries. Oh, wow. Right. And then all of a sudden now it's no longer an insurance company. Now it's not going to be trading to our price to sales ratio than that of United Healthcare. Now we're going to get into a higher revenue multiple, a higher price to sales. And holy moly, is it going to be beautiful. It is going to be so spectacular.
The question around kind of payment models, there's been so much policy effort and focus on payment models, payment model innovation. We have yet to meet a doctor that all of a sudden has introduced a new value-based care agreement, and then they say, oh, wow, now I'm going to start making great decisions for my patients. That's just not how they look at the world. What they are in dire need of is really great software that's not out to screw them, that can't be gamed, where they're just given it as an aid, in our case, an assistant, to help them make great decisions. That is what's going to drive clinical value and business value. But in healthcare today, you can't really correlate a lot of the market caps to clinical consumer value. It's usually some sort of financial construct, but all that's going to go away over the next 10 years or so.
All right, great. No, that was really helpful. Vivek, Andrew, Derek, really appreciate your time here. We've come up on time here, definitely got over a little bit. So we're gonna end it there. Thank you guys for your time here. Really appreciate it, and thank you for everyone on the line who listened in on today. So everyone have a great rest of your day.
All right, guys. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to shift gears and we're going to talk about using our artificial intelligence analysis here at our Discord channel. So this was very informative, but we're going to continue chugging along. We're going to do a quick technical analysis using our AI systems, which graphs our support and resistance. We're going to use a look at dark pool. Any block trades happened today? Why did the stock price go up? So we're just going to be able to show you guys also at the same time, if you guys like this Patreon service that we offer, which ports you to our Discord channel, which, people have done really well. There'll be a link down below, also a link in the chat up here that basically talks about our channel here. I'm very proud of our members here. I'm really proud of them. In fact, if you go down here to profits, one of my favorite comments, it just really shows you the power of our AI model here. It says one of my portfolios up $2,500 since joining 2 days ago. Best $10 I've ever spent. Huge thanks. All we do is charge $9.99. Unbelievable value. That's the value that we drive. That's the value that we I would say this is just like the Clover Assistant. No, I'm just kidding. But I honestly think it's it's in terms of the machine learning. Yes, it uses the same principles in terms of machine learning algorithms. But this is it right here. This is the package here, and this is all that you get. Holy effing moly! I don't want to cuss on live here, but as you can see, look at this. Just look at that. Look at that. It just continues. Right. So anywho, let's get to work here and let's use this technology and shut up and go ahead and use it. So let's go ahead and go to stock research. We're going to see a couple of our members here using it as well. So, all right. So let's go ahead here and let's take a look at projections. Let's see where could Clover Health go. This is called a Monte Carlo projection. It pretty much essentially predicts the where could Clover essentially go. It depends if we have the data or not. So we'll see right now where that's at. See if we get anything. There it is. It does take some time here, probably because I'm on live. So as you can see here for our Monte Carlo projection, you could start to see that we have, we're still, the Monte Carlo is essentially determining how far this projection could be. It is, again, green is bullish, white is base, and then the red is the bear. And it's gearing more close towards the bullish side. However, we could see another downturn, and that would be amazing. But I do believe we are going to get a lot of buying pressure during that time. A lot of people are going to be like, man, if it goes down again, I'm going to step in. Right? Because people are starting to realize that the bottom may be coming soon. Let's see here. Shout out to Brandon here for joining. I just got just a quick update here. It just popped off my screen. Shout out to you, Brandon. Catch you. Oh, you're going to enjoy it. Make sure you watch the Start Here channel. The Start Here is right there. Make sure you go in there. Get your free stocks. You get 5 free stocks. But make sure you go start here as well. So you can watch your videos. So I just, do we have any time lines for the California and AZ? For what do you mean by that? Can you specify? My apologies. As you go ahead and type that, I'll keep trucking along here. So now we're going to look at the support and resistance levels on the minute chart here. Let's see here. Am I messing up here? Do the minute chart here. Keep trucking along. So as we can see right now, we have a level of somewhat of a level of support at $3.38. Let's just look at the live stock price right now at Clover just to see what's going on right now. We're at $3.37 trading right now live. And the AI is pretty much saying that there's a level of support at $3.38. That means if it breaks this, we could hit down to $3.10, and this will be the next level of support. And again, the next one will be $2.67. The next one will be $2.31, and then one after that will be $2.10. I'm going to be showing you this at different time points because you also probably want to know what is the next level of resistance, and we're going to show you. So by doing that, all you got to do, and you can type in any ticker you want. You can look at any ticker you want, but here we're just focusing on Clover. So we're going to look at the hour chart here. So let's see what the hour chart says. We send it on in. Let me just show you so you guys can see more. We just send the command and it gives it back. So now that we see that $3.21, now we find that is another level of support. But then now, if we bounce off of, so what this is telling me is that if we bounce off of this $3.38 support line, that means the next level we could go to $4.18, and that'll be the next level of resistance. Now, if we pass that, then it's $5.29, and if we pass that, then it's $7.16, and then we can start creating somewhat of a cup and handle formation, which is a very useful technical analysis pattern that a lot of day traders use in order to essentially, that's essentially bullish. And we'll talk about that in our Mastering Stock Market course. Now, let's go ahead and continue trucking on here, and let's go to the day chart here. So we send our command, it pops it back. So now as we see, and then $3.72 is the next level of resistance here, and once we pass that, 530, 750, and 1080. Look at that. A lot of people are going to be happy up here. I can tell you that. That was you remember that movement where it swept up and then it came crashing back down with all the bad endless upgrades that are most likely supporting the incumbents. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at the weekly chart. And this will give you more information. So by doing that now, we already know the data regarding all of the other level of supports and resistance down in the lower numbers. But we do have a hard firm one here at $7.47, another one at $12.04, and $15.03. And this one's a hard stop one here coming in. So definitely take a look at this once we ascend up to those levels. Remember those days? Yeah, those were the days, man. Those were the days. So then now we're going to go in and we are going to go deeper, and let's take a look at any dark pool levels in terms of has anyone basically bought and at what prices. So let's go ahead and do this bad boy here. So $2.49 and $2.70 at 1.2 million shares and 1.33 million shares. So definitely we are getting some dark pool. Now I want to see if there's any block trades happening. Let's see. We may have to re-enter the command. No data found. So no data on the block trades. But now let's take a look at the call to put ratio, because that's also important as well. I want to know what's happening. And it seems that the sentiment now, there are more buys than sells. Again, you have access to all this information. It'll be in our Patreon link, where you can find in the chat or in the link down below. You'll see that there's more calls versus puts, which means that the sentiment for Clover Health is changing. So now let's go ahead and let's look at the algo flow. Now, what is algo flow? Algo flow is extremely expensive. If you were to just purchase just that, just go to flow algo pricing, you can see that just this by itself is extremely expensive, where it's literally, you can see the price $199 to $149 a month. First it's $37 and then it's $99 a month if you pay annually. If not, it'll be $149 a month. I'm taking the cost of all of these burdens to help retail get a fair shake on Wall Street. But what this tells you is that the stock price is going up as well as the algo score. So you're getting a confluence of data. These are for the algo traders. It tells you that the option traders, which is basically coming in real time, it shows you that it's bullish. Now this is the 5-day. So I like to zoom down and look at the 1-day to see, hey, maybe is there a shift? But it seems to me that it's going up to the heavens, which is a very telltale sign that is indicative in the share price. And as you can see here, this is beautiful. This is exactly what you want to see. This is great, right? Now, let's take a look at our AI predictive model. This is our artificial intelligence analysis. We did technical analysis, fundamental analysis was done before, and our intrinsic value calculation with our discounted statement of cash flows. This is our artificial intelligence analysis. And as you can see here, with the combined AI, your swing trade is bullish. Your options AI is bullish. Intraday, could be some variable, but overall, it's bullish. All right, so I think this one is concluded, but let me tell you, if you want access to our Discord channel, please consider. I'm telling you guys, this is the cheapest. You will not find this anywhere else. It's a community of like-minded investors who will get all my price targets, alerts, short squeeze indicators, AI machine learning technology, which you just saw just a slice of. And it's all for $9.99 a month. You want lifetime access? Consider mastering stock market course. Here it is right here. God bless you guys. It is a privilege. It is an honor. You have no idea how much you guys mean to me. I want to provide you insane amount of value. Let's go ahead and answer some questions. Yes, I know. Those don't worry. Those days will be coming back. End of day buying. We got just bought more CLOV before market close today. Average now 11,311. Happy to buy more if it dips back, where I will load up. And a lot of sentiment now because people are starting to realize, holy moly, you know, the bounce is hard on this one, right? So definitely 5 minute 1 million share candle. Oh, that's really beautiful. It's taken off right now. So yeah, it's taken off right now. Let's take a look here. I'm just so focused on you. I love you guys a lot. Would you look at that? Look at that. Would you look at that? It's taken off right now. Holy moly. You know, honestly, do you guys want to take a look at the technical analysis right now on the minute chart? Let's see. Let's see what the next level of resistance here. So you guys can see. You know, it's funny. Pip Diddy, almost like P Diddy. That's what. But a Pip Daddy. But I always think of P Diddy. For one of our members here. Let's take a look at the minute chart right now. See what the AI says on the minute. So let's see right now what's going on. So yeah, as you can see right now, it's basically just like we stated, it's literally bouncing. You guys are seeing our artificial intelligence technology live right in front of your face. It's pretty much bouncing off of that $3.38 resistance. And now the next level would be, let me go back up here. We already have it. The next level would be $4.18. However, it still needs to pass through our $3.72 resistance. So that's essentially where it could be heading. So let's go ahead right now. And yeah, so this is beautiful. This is amazing. A lot of, I want to thank all of our members at the Patreon for helping make this dream come true. The more you guys subscribe to our Patreon, the more funding it gets, the more I'm able to add to the Patreon. I'm going to be a physician. I don't need the money. I'm actually paying it forward, reinvesting back into the channel, reinvesting back into the platform, giving you guys what hedge funds have. That's the beauty of what we're trying to do here. This is a retail movement. I want to just finish off by talking about our mission. Our mission is simple. Let's go ahead and start here. Our mission at All Stock Trades is we are democratizing financial information for all. We foster a culture of inclusiveness, excellence, whether you are disabled, poor, rich, all identities and differences are included within our family. No matter your race, ethnicity, gender expression, sex, sexual orientation, age, religion, language, abilities, socioeconomic status, educational backgrounds, and geographic region, you are embraced, valued, and we freaking love you. My mission is to create a platform that puts God first in everything we do as we fight for an equal world where the power of Wall Street is given back to the people of Main Street. That is the goal of this channel. That is the goal of this platform, and we'll continue building it, right? So just to finish off, I want to go ahead and just provide you guys this opportunity. This is going to be ending by the end of the month, where they were able to extend it. I highly suggest that you go ahead and use this link. All you need to do is deposit one freaking penny, and you can get at least 1 penny, right? You can deposit more if you want. You can get 5 free stocks valued up to over $9,000, right? But you got to deposit a penny in order to activate the accounts, right? And then you'll be able to get that 5 free stocks. So I always try to provide you guys insane amount of value. You guys deserve the best. All the Clover Health community has been hit hard, and I'm here for you. I'm not fucking leaving, excuse my language, right? But I'm here for you guys. And yeah, all right. So Let's go ahead here. CLOV closing above 350 today will be awesome. Absolutely. Thank you so much for all your dedication analyzing this stock. Hey, it's a privilege and honor. It's a privilege and honor. Other than that, let me know if you guys have any questions. Let's take a look at Clover right now. What's going on? Yeah, it is going. It is going. Hey, you said your wish may have come true, Brandon. Your wish may have come true. Look at that. I was gonna say something like "Let's go," but then I realized that's that's not. I'm gonna refrain from saying that, right? So, So yeah, I just usually I say that, sadly, but society took that away from me. If you guys know what I mean. But other than that, it's a privilege and honor. God bless you guys. Continue investing safe. Be safe, and you all mean the world to me. You have no idea, each and every one of you. So I say that from the bottom of my heart. All right. God bless you guys. Peace.